right, everybody. I'm Jody. I'm here. I'm a bass nerd, and I'm here with my co-host
Mark.
And we are the Bass Nerds, and
Shots
we
fired.
are here with. Introduce yourself.
Dezron Douglas.
Dezron Douglas, doing a lot of upright bass playing, a lot of touring with electric bass.
Yeah, whatever's bass, that's me.
Whatever's carrying the low end.
Whatever's bass, that's me.
I don't know where to start. Do we just start at the beginning here, Mark? Do you want to start us off? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about your musical history and growing up in Connecticut.
Connecticut.
You went to Hartt.
The Hartt School of Music.
Yeah, and tuba, right?
Actually, yeah. So I studied in West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, but I was in a program called Project Concern. And I studied in West Hartford, Connecticut. And I've been playing bass in church since I was 9 years old. Well, started at 7, but got kicked off the bass a couple times in church.
What for?
Disturbing the music. Just doing too much. I had to learn.
During
like
7-year-old shit.
Exactly. I was trying to be like my dad in his band.
Your dad plays too.
Yeah, my dad plays guitar and sings, and he's a pastor now. He has a church in Hartford, actually Middletown, Connecticut. But he had a gospel group called the Faith Harmonizers, and I idolized them. Anyway, it was in 3rd grade that I picked up the tuba. Now I'm talking about the tuba because while studying in the West Hartford school system, I also went to the Hartford Conservatory of Music, where I studied tuba and trombone with a guy named Marshall Brown, who was with the Hartford Symphony.
Wow.
And that's where I also met Dave Santoro, who was the reason why I picked up upright bass.
Yeah.
The jazz has been in my family. My great uncle, Walter Bolden, played drums he was original Birdlander. Nancy Wilson, George Shearing, Stan Getz. He actually got Horace Silver his first gig with Stan. Anyway, you can check all that out. But seeing Dave Santoro play at the Hartford Conservatory, I came home and told my mom, I was like, I want to play upright bass. And she's like, how are we going to do this? We got to make it happen. And
was it how can we do this?
God's grace, we made it happen. Huh?
Was it how can we do this from like a physics standpoint, just the size?
Financial standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm from Hartford, man, and an instrument. This is a story that I've never told.
An exclusive, Bass Nerds exclusive.
This is a bass, whatever you say, I had a summer job at the Hartford Conservatory as well, and I started that gig when I was like 14. And one summer, we were doing something, moving something, and there were a bunch of instruments. And I turned around real fast, and at that time, I wear a size 13 now. Maybe at 14, I was wearing like a size 11.
Same. Foot buddies.
I had big feet. And I turned around real quick, and this cello went flying.
No!
That day, that was when I learned the value of instruments.
Did it come out of your paycheck, or?
Yeah, it was an honest mistake. So
sure.
Of course it got, it wasn't, nothing came out of my pocket. It was just literally that person realized that, you can't have instruments. Everyone learned the value of $1 again. If you didn't know, you learned that day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So when I saw Dave Santoro play, it was maybe a couple months after that. So I immediately came home and was like, you're just not gonna, find an upright bass in a parking lot, or they don't grow on trees.
Right.
They come from the trees, but they cost money. And, it was rough trying to buy one, but God found a way. And I got a bass, rented it from the school, and began studying with Dave Santoro. So
how old were you when this happened?
15, when I began studying with Dave.
Okay.
And I spent all of high school with him, and started studying with Nat Reeves at the Hartt School of Music. And, I never studied the bass classically, but I studied the tuba classically. So I applied everything. And then while I was in college, took some lessons with a lot of my classical friends, bass world. Everyone loves bass. if you're in the bass world. So it's all about trying to be the best bassist you can be. There should be no hierarchy, period. There is no hierarchy on the bandstand. That's a quote that the great drummer Victor Lewis told me. There's no hierarchy on the bandstand. So with the bass, there's really no hierarchy. We're all trying to be great. We're all trying to be better every day. And I had some friends like show me bowing and, technique, check out this book, and, So yeah, that's my musical upbringing, education-wise.
Yeah, man, like everybody in your family, like everyone you're surrounded by, like it's
Hartford was a
incredible.
great city. For me.
But did you take? You said you were playing in church. I'm assuming this was all through like high school too. Were you a steady churchgoer? I'm assuming you didn't bring the upright to the church, right? It was just electric bass in the church.
Just electric bass in the church. I never thought about it until actually after college, I played trio with my best friend at his dad's church. We did like a little background thing, and then we actually did the first, what do they call? It's called, you might have to edit this part. I'm trying to remember it.
Yeah.
It's a service, it's a church service where you have musicians and they do, Lord forgive me, Dad forgive me. But we played a service.
Okay.
We played a service, and it was jazz quartet. And I had a blast, and I was like, okay, that was the first time I brought upright bass in the church. And it wasn't the last. Actually, that summer, the great bassist Clifford Gunn, who played with Lionel Hampton, he was a stalwart in Hartford for years, and he passed away, and the Hartford Jazz Society asked me to play a bass solo for him for his funeral service. And that was maybe the third time I played bass, upright bass in church.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm glad that happened because it reinforced my connection with the Spirit.
Yeah.
Which is everything. That's half of music, spirit.
How do you think what have you found to be maybe the best way to connect the spirit with your playing?
Well, we were talking about this while we were having good coffee. I feel like the spirit is everyone's connection to the actual facilitation of the instrument that's being played. Meaning everyone, we're talking about the unknown. The one thing that's afforded to everyone is the unknown, right? And when you're an instrumentalist, no matter what instrument you play, if you don't tap into that unknown, you're immediately taking a portion of what could be happening communication-wise with you and the audience.
Sure.
And whether it's zero, so we've learned that playing into cameras during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right.
But someone's always listening,
Right.
whether it be a neighbor. I've had neighbors, come up to me and be like, I don't know what you were playing, but man, it felt good.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. Sounds good what you're doing. Meanwhile, like you're in the room, like just like,
Zoning out.
exactly, like
Right.
messing up, not really, like, just playing. So classical music teaches us that execution is everything, which is a part of it, but it's not the whole. It's not the whole circle. It's a portion of the circle. The other portion is spirit.
Yeah.
You can practice something 1,000 times and get it right. I was saying 997 times.
Right.
Then you get on stage and the creator's like, I don't care how many times you think you're gonna play this
Right.
the right way, it's not gonna come out. Try me.
Right.
You try him and it's like, oh, okay, now the fact that you reacted that way, shows something. It shows that you don't have faith.
Yeah.
Versus what are you gonna do now? Find something, When I was in college and studying under the great Jackie McLean and his blessed faculty that we were able to be around, I remember Dr. McLean and his wife, Dolly McLean, they have a building called the Artist Collective. And at the time, Jackie would have this series where he'd honor some of his peers, you know.
Sure.
And his peers were, you know, there was a concert with McCoy Tyner's trio, Toots Thielmans, the Heath brothers, Ron Carter, and the Ron Carter thing. So what he'd do is he had this massive red chair, like a king's chair.
Mm-hmm.
And
that makes sense.
Exactly. When he honored the Heath brothers, he had 3 of them. I was like, man, where are these chairs coming from? But you know, with McCoy, he had a chair, and I was in his advance ensemble. So the concert would always start with the advance ensemble playing a song for, you know, before the artist or the feature plays their set. We did that for McCoy. We did it for Toots Thielmans. We did it for the Heath brothers. We did it for the Dizzy Band. And Dr. McLean called me up one night and he said, Dezron, Ron Carter's coming and I want you to play a bass solo to open up the whole concert.
Oh, no pressure, man. Uh-oh.
Still to this day,
yeah,
that was the beginning of what I call me tapping into my emotional anxiety. That was the first time that I tapped into my anxiety, which is really driven from my emotions.
What was the outcome?
So, 2 months before, because Dr. McLean told me this like the beginning of the semester, you know, this, and there were concerts before that, but Ron's concert was in the spring, the spring semester. So I had time. So 2 months out, he calls me up and he's like, Dezron, why don't you come to the collective? I want to hear what you have prepared, you know? So I went and I had this, you know, Ron takes this beautiful bass solo of Willow Weep for Me. And so I tried to conjure some of that and take some of the ideas, and I was playing something. I had my own standard that I was playing. And I had it all worked out. And so it's me and Dr. McLean in this gymnasium-like room where we rehearsed the big band. And he's sitting across and he's like, all right, okay, play. And I'm going into my thing and he has this look on his face that just make anyone feel like super small.
Oh, no.
He's just looking at me like the whole time, and I'm like, and he's just like.
He felt it. He felt the anxiety.
And then when I was done, he was like, Dezron, okay, you know, try it again, man. You know, try it again. And so I was like crushed. I closed my eyes and I just started playing the bass.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was just me like in outer space.
Right.
And I was just praying and faith that, you know, whatever I'm hearing is coming out of the instrument. And when I opened my eyes and I looked at Dr. McLean, he was like, yes, son. And he said to me, I don't know what you were looking for when you closed your eyes, but keep finding it. Keep searching for it. He said, deep. You sounded great. He said, you sounded great. I don't know what it is you're looking for, but keep searching for it. And he would say things like, you know, if you mess up, play chromatically. You'll find something special in the process.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so it's like you can be a technician. Even the greatest technicians face problems every day.
Sure.
And you have to like, okay, this doesn't work. This doesn't, well, we need to keep it going. Do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Do this, you know. That's what music is. That's what communication on the highest level should always be. You know, you may not understand what someone's saying, but if you can feel it, you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's So to kind of go back, like it's where the human condition and the emotion is the conduit to
Exactly.
upstairs.
Exactly.
But that sort of touches a bit on what Dr. I'm sorry,
Dr. McLean,
Dr.
Jackie
McLean
McLean.
said to you. I don't know what you were searching for, but keep finding it. That is so profound, and any teacher, instructor, professor worth their salt will tap into that human emotion element. It's like we were talking about earlier. It's the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why we play
Mm-hmm.
the way we play.
Exactly.
Why we chose
Exactly.
that path, as opposed to just the constant inundation of the how-to players, which I'm just as guilty of, both of those. And there has to be a balance between the two. And when we're so inundated with these really amazing virtuosic players, it just I often wonder like okay, but why? I never really thought of it that way until you dropped that on me today. And it was just it's just such an important question to ask. Why?
Man, the truth is, with anything you're passionate about, if you want to learn something, the how is always there.
Yeah.
You got to learn.
Especially in this day.
Exactly. You want to learn how to walk as a human being. You want to learn how to, do something. You got to learn how to do it. But the how comes from the why.
Yeah.
I remember the first month I was studying with Dave Santoro. And of course, thank you, Dave, for dealing with knuckleheads like me and my friends. We were blessed to be around some masters who were like, these kids, man, we were kids, but we wanted to listen, we wanted to learn.
Right.
So they were dropping stuff on us. So I remember the first month I'm studying with Dave, I came into a lesson. The first 2 lessons, he was dropping all this theory on me, and I was just like, oh, and he's dropping technique on me, and I'm like, I'm practicing it, but I'm like, so I came in on the 3rd lesson, and he started to go into, I was like, Dave, Mr. Santoro, I want to play John Patitucci's solo on Terminal Baggage Claim. Terminal Baggage Claim, there's this part where Patitucci plays dee-dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee-dee, and I was like, I want to play that. That's what I want to play. So then he goes, well, do you know thumb position? And I was like, no. He said, well, you got to learn thumb position because that's the way Patitucci played it. And I understood what he was trying to say, but I was like, oh man, you're taking the fun out of everything.
Just show me where to put my fingers.
I want to play that line. So I learned thumb position for like 2 months just so I could learn that line. And I was able to play a scale. And then after we got over that period where I was learning thumb position, then he was like, do you want to play thumb position? And I was like, no. No, I will not be playing thumb position.
What was it about?
But I figured out how to play it without thumb position, and it was like the beginning of me, developing my own technique, which comes from Simandl and comes from all the greats before us. If you watch people, I like to watch people's hands. Primarily the left hand. And if the left hand is happening to me, now I'm like, okay, let me see the facilitator of that, left hand. And then I got hooked on that for a while. But anyway, the how, and also you have to go see the people you idolize do what they do.
Yeah.
You have to, I don't know what you would call that.
It's just like recon.
Exactly.
Just,
reconnaissance.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to see that so that what you hear, what you feel can translate to, okay, I'm seeing the facilitation of it. Now let me try it that way. And if that way doesn't work for you, you find something that works for you. If you can get to it, get to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, with economy of motion, anatomy, those things are important.
Exactly.
To consider. The path is always there. What you were saying about the thumb position and not wanting to ever play that again reminds me so much of the scene in the show Grayson Frankie, where I can't, what's her name? Not Carol Burnett. Ryder, do you know her name? you perked up. Anyway, one of the characters, she's like the kind of hippie one, free spirit, and she's just so determined, like on like folding this fitted sheet, and she's like, I don't know why we torture ourselves with this. I don't know how like it's done. She finally figures it out by the end of the episode, and she's like, oh, you finally did it. And she's like, yep. And I'm never doing it ever again. It's just like undoes it and everything. It's just like reminding me of that.
Yeah,
I've accomplished. I'm good.
Yeah.
But you know, in the process, she learned so much information.
Right.
You know, and information.
But the why?
Should be
Why are we
realized.
doing this?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
that's missing from culture right now. That philosophical approach to life. I mean, like, are you all noticing this deficit? Like, we were lucky to have like philosophy around us by our teachers and their teachers and so forth. It was sort of baked in, at least to my curriculum in school, and the people like around me and friends and everything. Like, I'm seeing such a lack of that now. Are you all noticing that too?
big time.
I mean, like, the thing you're explaining is a thing that the dragon, I think most musicians are chasing when it comes to like on the spot improv, like, you know, trying to soloing and stuff like that. So I like, for you, I'm trying to like nail down, all right, you're playing. It's your moment to maybe shine or step out a little bit, or like you said, you're doing your solo thing. What are the steps that prepare you to get into that place? Are you like visualizing yourself somewhere else? Is it like counting to 3 and just trying to relax your body to get into, are you praying? Are you like, what are you actually like trying to manifest in your mind when you're preparing to take yourself into that more, you know, less physical realm, if you will? Is there a thing that you do or steps?
I feel like, me personally, the higher degree of anxiety, it's not nervousness, because nervousness is an actual nerve thing, and that can be triggered by many things, but that's like a body thing.
Sure.
Anxiety becomes a body thing, but it's very existential. It's coming from your mind.
Sure.
So to me, the higher degree of anxiety that I have in a situation, if I give into it, the end result is way more beautiful and unexpected. And 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna feel good about.
If you let
what
the anxiety
happens.
take over, this is a better outcome for you, you feel like?
Not necessarily succumbing to it, embracing it.
Okay.
Like it's there.
Right.
It's
It's
just
there. So
it's like you're like one step ahead of it. Yeah.
Okay, I was actually talking about this with the great Stefan Harris and his band Blackout. We were in New Orleans, and we were just, I decided to wear my heart on my, sleeve and talk about my anxiety and the fact of how it's made me the bass player that I am now. With emotions, if you don't know something, you could be on the bandstand with someone who doesn't make you feel comfortable. Whatever the situation is, when you're in that space, anxiety can be the block between you getting to that unknown, right?
Sure.
Because you're afraid. So anxiety is chaos control, right?
Right.
And as a bass player, we all know if something goes wrong with the tune, the first person that's gonna get blamed for it is the bass player, always.
The rhythmic and harmonic conduit.
Always, no matter what. Even if, and then lo and behold, bass makes a mistake.
Yep.
Then it's like, the song is, But that being said, in my mind, I will create so much chaos and foreshadow things that could go wrong if I decided to do this, or if I decided to do this, if I decided to try that, or
It's brave.
I know this works, but this particular musician that I'm working with, you know, that's where the empath, you know, the empathy comes in as well. You know, you have to be able to feel that, and I have a lot of feeling in me. So when I've tapped into my anxiety, now that chaos control is not there, yet I've used discernment and try my best to make the best decisions musically.
You know, that
You know what I
comes,
mean?
that
Like,
comes out in
Decision making
Yeah.
is everything.
It comes out
playing
in
the
your
bass.
composition as well. The 2022 release AdAIA, is that what it's called?
Thank you.
That, like, I was trying to find a way to describe it. I was actually listening to it this morning. I revisited it. And there was always something like beautiful and lyrical about that record start to finish. But there is a sort of chaotic playfulness that's there. And so now that you say this about being one step ahead of the anxiety, or not allowing your anxiety to be a blockade and trying so hard to navigate around it, but to navigate with it, you hear that in, at least on that record. And when was that a sort of like an epiphany for you?
Well, with the upright bass, it was that moment with Dr. McLean, definitely, because after that, I definitely began thinking differently and playing differently. You know, my peers, my friends who were around me were all learning at the same time. They even noticed the shift. And of course, I had an absolute meltdown when I finally performed that piece for Ron Carter. You know, the maestro is one of the most shining bright lights of the instrument in the history of time.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like and he's looking at you, and it's like, no matter what I play, it's not happening. You know,
Right.
like, so I'm already in that mode. But that's an emotional anxiety thing that I had to learn to overcome and embrace. And I was already aware of it by the time I'm glad I had that moment with Dr. McLean.
Did you ever tell Dr. McLean how this transformed you ever, and like the terms in which you're saying it to us?
I never got a chance to.
Yeah.
But I felt like he felt it.
He
you
knew
know,
it,
because
yeah.
we were very close up until when he left this
Right.
earthly realm. But on the electric bass, I learned that in church, you know, with the Spirit. When playing for someone who's preaching, you have to connect
Right.
to what's happening. And anything that feels not like what's happening is noticeable.
Right.
So it's almost that's where I first learned about the ego.
Right.
You know, what is the ego want to satisfy, and is what the ego want to satisfy a part of the overall agenda of what we have to do? If it is, great. You can this is a good, you know, glass of water. But if it's not, you always want to have a beneficial glass of water. You know, you don't want to drink water with dirt in it.
Right. No, I mean, I think about like great musical moments where I feel like the artist has really tapped into what we're talking about here. And you mentioning church, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Kingfish, Chris Kingfish, playing at his mom's funeral.
Oh, wow.
He plays Amazing Grace.
Oh my God.
I think Kingfish is an incredible musician.
He's one of my
but
favorite.
he tapped into
favorites right
something
now.
at this church
That's
at
like
his mom's funeral.
It's
That
like
is-
it's like George Clinton with Eddie Hazel.
Yeah.
And was it on Maggot Brain, where he's like, when he's doing the guitar solo and he's like, he like leans in during the take and he's like, I want you to play as if you just found out that your mama died.
Yeah.
And then he plays that way, and then like halfway through it he like leans in and he's like, hey, by the way, you just found out that she's still alive, and it like comes out that way. But
wow.
to have a real
Yeah.
example of that,
Yeah.
I cannot imagine what
Yeah, no, I mean, so it
Must be
was
powerful.
it made the rounds a couple years ago, on the internet, and
I have
then
to
somebody
check that
took it
out.
down. But there's a post somewhere on Facebook. Somebody still has like a really kind of crappy version of it, but it's still incredible.
But
watch.
was that taken down per Kingfish's
probably
wishes?
Probably.
So to seek it out, I mean, that was a very
Maybe,
intimate
right.
and private moment.
That's personal.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear about.
Right.
At some point, maybe I'll get a chance to see it. But it's great to hear about it. And it's beautiful that you interpreted it the way that it was intended. That's a personal
You were lucky
moment.
to experience that when it was out there.
Yeah. And from a person who was already a fan. You know, it wasn't like I stumbled on this really killer guitar player. It was a guy who I really enjoy his playing, and then saw that and was like, I mean, I watched it on repeat like many times over the first time I saw it.
Sure.
It just like brought me to tears a little bit, you know. It was like a magical moment. Another moment might be, was it Nancy Wilson doing Led Zeppelin Stairway to Heaven at the Led Zeppelin induction? Like, I think that performance, Jason Bonham's playing drums, and Nancy Wilson of Hartt is just killing it. She is like, again, love Hartt, love that band. She just like takes it to another level in that performance. You know, you can tell she's singing to Robert Plant in the audience. You know, the whole band's there, and she just taps into this moment that I think like you had 10,000 hours of scales and rehearsal to allow you to tap into something like that, but like just to go up there, it's a different thing than really understanding your scales or your modes or your whatevers. It's
That's
like
all
just letting it
fundamental
kind
and
of take
reflex.
you over, you know, which is a thing, like I said, a dragon that I have been chasing for a long time, and I've noticed some exceptional musicians that I've played with where like we'll be on stage and it's their time to solo, and all of a sudden I look over and my buddy Dan's playing keys, and he's a different person right now. Like, you can see him change when it's time for him to like rip a little bit. He like takes a deep breath, he comes down, he closes his eyes. I don't know what he's looking for, but he's searching for it, you know. And I think those are the intangible thing.
That's
is
the
a
magic.
Thing it's like
the
the
magic.
hard thing to like even talk about. I mean, it's even kind of weird to talk about, but I think I've seen
Let's
it
talk
as a
about it.
musician.
We have a whole channel to do
Beautiful,
that.
you know, it's
We're
beautiful to
getting there,
talk
you know?
about. Man, one of my, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Aretha Franklin record. What is it called? Amazing Grace, where they actually showed the movie of the record.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I've heard.
There's a classic record.
I'm not familiar with the name of the thing, but I've heard about this.
It's a classic record where Aretha, I think it takes place in Detroit. You know, she goes back home, and the bass player and drummer. Now, I'm a big fan. You know, Cornell Dupree's on there. It's like all of our heroes. To see Chuck Rainey, and Bernard Purdy, in that element, going back to their roots, and the way they play, the decisions that are made note-wise by Chuck Rainey, like it's like Mr. Consistent, consistently sweet, funky, and grooving. Like,
man,
I mean, to watch. You know, there's a part where in the movie, I remember being in the movie theater and the camera pans on Chuck, and his bass looks like a massive redwood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's Chuck Rainey, man.
Yeah,
It was like,
you know, we
now I know what all those notes, you know, I'm seeing all those notes. It's like, oh man, I had tears in my eyes. And just the whole moment of that, it's like, that's real. Everyone in that church during those concerts were tapped into the spirit. And it's like, it doesn't matter what note you play. If the intent is to play something beautiful, it's gonna be there. And we're all doing this together. You know, it's like this togetherness. Now, that space you're talking about, it's great when you see the whole band in that space.
Sure, right.
That's a special thing.
When everyone's like, and then the audience can feel that. It's like, sky's the limit.
You've just escaped into this like ethereal void.
You know, we just saw Nate Smith, Kiefer, and Cartoons, and I feel like that kind of thing is like they are playing songs that are rehearsed, but they're constantly trying to tap into those moments. And I think Nate, like, seems to effortlessly tap into those moments when he wants to shine out a little bit.
Those
Certainly
are
Kiefer
brilliant-
and Cartoons are
brilliant
doing it
musicians.
too, but like those, I felt like we saw it this past weekend when we were at
Yeah. No, that was special.
whatever place that is.
City Winery.
City Winery.
Yeah, that was very special.
Man.
And
You know-
same with like, when Tim and Nate and
Yeah, I saw those clips you posted from the Blue Note.
yeah.
That
they're
was a very
constantly
special
trying to-
evening.
I think that's what
Tim
I mean.
is one of the
I think if you broke it down,
baddest
that's
cats
what
out
they're
here
looking
right now.
for.
100%.
When they're performing.
Tim is like ridiculous.
Like we were talking about earlier, that concept. I had to text. I got like real emotional when I read his post and the click, the ears wide open concept. I was like real emotional. Then I texted Tim. I was just like, "You said something really profound, and I just wanted to thank you, bud."
It's true.
And I hit send, and I was just like, "Oh man!" And I was like, "You know what? No, Tim's cool as fuck. I think he might
Very
appreciate
cool.
this."
Yeah,
Very
Tim's
cool.
great, dude.
But it was like one of those moments where you kind of are on the out of some sort of like deep emotional issue. Like we all get our funks, and I needed to hit that rise, and it just, for whatever reason, the algorithm, the spirit, just put the algorithm or whatever, just put it right in front of me, and the concept hit me, and I was like, that's what I needed to read right now and consume. Which it was really, it was awesome. But like, it's that connection and just being open to whatever.
Right.
But I feel like I personally need to explore allowing the emotional anxiety to kind of come with me.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I
That's like
always
the
try
way,
to fight it.
an explanation I wasn't expecting, or the way that you facilitate or handle that situation. Like the word anxiety to me is like, put it behind the door, shut the door, and like lock it up.
That's a big thing for men in general.
Sure.
Right?
Big time. Big time.
Like I got control of this situation. But I also have been in the position where I'm performing, and you're up there, and you clearly are either unprepared or you don't have. It is going sideways because of you, and then now all of a sudden that anxiety door has broke open, and now you're just like, you can't fight the battle. I feel like, but those are also been great learning moments
because
for
it's
me,
like, what are you going to do now?
What are you going to do now?
What are you going to do now?
Right.
And it's like, if your whole heart is in it, it doesn't matter what you do. Just do something.
Sure.
And
I wish
and live with it. Now
you were in my ear in those moments, like
Write it down.
this is what
Fuck, you know what?
Well, no,
It's
I'm
recorded.
learning right
the
now.
voices,
It's recorded.
the voices that have been in my head when I'm on stage.
Now maybe
you
we
don't
shouldn't
want
talk
those
about
voices
those right now.
Yeah. You don't want those. But man, what I would like to share, talking about that space where everybody's in the same, area. The whole concept of team ball, right? When everyone feels that, then, because really, speaking on anxiety or the unknown, no matter how much you interact with someone, or you could be even on tour, unless you ask someone how they feel, you don't know.
Right.
So on stage, when you're in that moment, and if everyone's tapped in, that feeling alone is healing.
Sure.
I had a few situations where I got to share the bandstand with the great Jerry Allen, rest in peace. And I remember 2012, summer of 2012, I was going through, that was when I first got diagnosed with anxiety. A doctor said, you have anxiety.
Yeah.
And I had a rough summer, really rough summer mentally. And that's another thing. This is the first time I'm really even talking about mental health now, like within the last 2 or 3 years, because now it's a thing. I've been teaching at NYU, and it's really a thing to consider, which wasn't necessarily considered for us when we were studying.
Sure.
Which is good, to an extent. There has to be some kind of regimen too.
Right.
But I remember being at the sound check at Birdland with Ravi Coltrane, Marcus Gilmore, and Jerry Allen. And I'm plugging in my bass, and I look up, and Jerry's looking at me, and she just says, "Everything's gonna be okay." And she's smiling, man. Waterworks, man, waterworks. I was just like, and I could feel myself inside, like shaking, but like creating with her. Just during the sound check, we had a brilliant week.
Yeah.
And I'm forever in debt to her for that moment. It showed me that feeling could be power.
Yeah.
And not that I'm chasing power, you mentioned that, but utilizing that's more as strength, like nourishment, like that feeling, that space, because it's unknown.
Yeah.
When you allow anxiety to be a part of you, meaning like, okay, I'm gonna hug it, because it's not going anywhere. You can't fight it. You try to fight it, it's going to, it's the undefeated champ, heavyweight champ, sleepy nap. It will put you to sleep, When you embrace it, now it's like, no matter what we do, we're here.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter as heavy as we think it is.
There is a big difference between what you're talking about, where it's embracing and using it as sort of like a superpower, versus identifying it and allowing it to consume you or rationalize whatever dog shit behavior that you bring to the table. This is the thing. This is what I fear. And maybe I'm totally off base. I think identifying it is critical right now. And it's amazing that it's been, like, mental health has been very pushed to the forefront. But okay, what are we doing with that information now?
And I love the way you said it, rationalizing it for the dog shit, whatever, dog shit is serious.
It's okay.
That's a heavy term, dog shit, it's serious. Not using it as an excuse to have a high level of mediocrity.
Right. Yeah, what are you doing to mitigate it? I think step one is identifying the problem.
Yeah, you still have to
fight against it or whatever.
Be an artist and be a creative, and be a musician on a high level.
Yeah.
There should be no reason to not attempt to do anything on a high level. It's just, not everybody feels the same way when they're doing something on a high level.
Right.
I'm at this crossroads where, like, part of me, maybe this is just upbringing, feels that you have to pick and choose when we can talk about these things. The other part of me is saying that if we don't talk about these things, then it becomes this festering wound that will continue to plague us. And wherein lies that balance? I think that friends especially should be able to talk. It shouldn't be the only thing that we talk about, but we should be able to have open discussions about these things with people who we love and trust, to just sort of say, like, hey, I'm going through this too. It's like that. There's like this adage or whatever where, like, a guy falls down in a hole, doctor walks by, like, hey doc, I fell in this hole, can you help me out? And doctor writes prescription, throws him down the hole and leaves. He said, what the fuck? Priest walks by, same thing. Hey priest, I fell down in this hole, can you help me out? Priest, says prayers and everything, walks by, leaves him. And the guy's like, what the fuck? Then he sees his friend, he's like, hey Joey, I fell in this hole, can you help me out? And Joey jumps down and he's like, Joey, what the hell are you doing? Now we're both stuck down here, you idiot. And he's like, yeah, I know, but I've been down here before and I know the way out. Right. We won't ever know. We won't ever be able to work through those things until we feel comfortable actually talking about those things together. And it can't be the only thing that we talk about.
Sure.
But we have to have the conversation with our friends about this.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yes, and it's a hard conversation to have in general, but with musicians, and I feel particularly with the bass community, we, in various ways, hold each other supremely accountable for
I know exactly what you're talking
mediocrity. and it's mediocrity on various levels, and it's all to one's personal taste. And the truth, to me, is in someone's hands. You know, I hung out around a lot of drummers. I like drummers. I like saxophone players. Particularly to watch saxophone players' hands. But drummers talk about hands. You know, I find myself still to this day asking peers, masters, you know, about technique, and maybe that's from my anxiety and chaos control. Let me try to control the things that I can.
Sure.
I know if I have this together and this together, it's just like getting in the car. If you get in the car and you know everything works, you put your seatbelt on, you know, okay, now you still got to turn the car on and go somewhere. But at least you're going somewhere knowing that right now the car works. Yes, you might turn the corner and the transmission might go.
Right.
But at least in that moment, you know, so if you can control that, you know, that now you at least have something to fall back on when you fly.
Right.
In the bass community, we hold each other accountable for a lot of that stuff, you know, and it's great. It's also great to be honest with yourself. Never get ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
I've had many moments like that in my short career as a human, but many examples where I think I know something, and someone whom I idolize and comes up to me with the utmost love and says, "Actually, son, it's this."
Yeah.
And you can't change that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do it. But you can't say it's not this because it's actually this, you know,
Right.
whatever it may be,
Right.
you know, whether it's how you hold your hands, you know?
Right.
And I'm a stickler on technique, and I'm not one that's preaching a certain type of technique. I feel like from experience, if you're playing and you're in pain, that's a technique issue. And
Yeah.
that's something that's blocking you from being your highest self. You know,
Right.
now you might be playing some great things, but now you got carpal tunnel,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that carpal tunnel is going to keep you at a certain level of mediocrity.
And it's probably only going to get worse.
Exactly. Whereas if you modified it, if you opened up your mind a little bit and modified something to where you can play comfortably and freely, now you've unlocked a lot of things that you don't know you can do.
We really need to get him in touch with Randy Kurtz.
Randy's the guy. Oh, we just send you a couple videos. Will
Or his
start to
books.
open your
Please
eyes.
do.
His
He'll
books.
like.
He's a
he's got a book.
chiropractor, the bassist guide to injury prevention.
Wow.
And care as well. Like
Yeah.
there's technique things. There's like
way
posture,
you
positioning,
stand
the
is-
where your bass is on your body, and it's very.
He did the video thing, I think, with Scott's bass lessons that I found very informative, and just like he's like, this is what bass players do, and I'm like, every bass player does that. And that's why they have these problems.
Man, I've gone through the gambit of. I remember when I first started playing electric bass in church, I was around a lot of bass players that played like this.
Yeah.
You know, I was here for a minute.
I mean, I'm doing this, just this,
You know,
not even playing strings. And I'm like,
exactly. I was here for a
I'm
minute.
gonna regret this
you know?
later.
And then I remember being here. And then I remember, you know,
Paul Jackson.
you know, like being here, you know. And now I'm like where it's, you know, where it's comfortable for me. And that's where it's comfortable for me. And I can still play the same way. But I remember years of being up here.
I mean, I've played. I had the luxury of playing his Scholl bass.
Okay.
And we were talking a little bit, the past couple of days about things, and I was like, "How do you like your, action and things like that?" And he's like, "I like really high action and heavy basses." And I was like, "You are a rare one," but it makes sense. You coming from upright, like there's a comfort there. And he hands me his shoulder bass, and I was like, "Oh shit!" He was not kidding. It's like it is high, but
it should feel good.
It should feel good, and it does. Like, that's the weird thing, Jody. You can have high action and it be comfortable.
I've been the guy who is close to that fret.
No, Pete Scholl.
Man, the great Robert Hurst actually told me that. Shout out to Bob Hurst. I was on a festival on Martha's Vineyard, and he had brought a bass, and I'm a big fan of Bob Hurst, and this was the first time he let me touch one of his basses. And you can hear all the records, the virtuosic stuff he's playing. And I went to play, I'm like, "Man, your action is ridiculously high." And I'm like, this is coming from me, who I play high action on upright. And I'm like, "Man, it feels like butter." And he was like, "Bass should always feel good." And I was like, it was like some Yoda type stuff. Like, he said, "The action has nothing to do with the bass. It's all about your setup." There you go, And Pete, he understands that, It's like,
yeah, I didn't feel like I was like, it was, even though it was high, the notes were still resonant, and it was still very easy. I didn't feel like I was like really pushing.
Yeah.
And that maybe it was just the psychological effect of knowing. Like when you see that, you anticipate that you're gonna have to fight with it.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know about Pete Scholl's basses, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna have to fight this so much.
Man,
and I just was able to play relaxed.
Pete is a genius.
Yeah.
Pete is a genius. And you know what? Pete is a genius of a community of geniuses.
Yeah.
When it comes to instrument making in the bass world, But he's just the genius that speaks to me.
Yeah. Very cool.
What model is it that you're playing?
The Lion's Pride.
Okay.
So
is that the single cut one or no?
No, it's actually all the specs, but this bass, if I'm correct, it's swamp ash. Heavy cut body with a burl top.
Okay.
And maple, everything else is maple. Whether it's roasted, the fingerboard, neck, headstock.
We'll show some
pickup ramps.
photos and videos.
I have all the specs of my bass. I actually, got real nerdy when me and Pete were building them. But
Wait
I'm
a
the
minute,
kind
I
of
thought
person.
you said you weren't a bass nerd.
So here's the thing. I got real nerdy with aesthetics, and I had to make sure that I had a heavy piece of wood. I like wood. One of the best bass I ever played. Do you remember those Yamaha stage?
Yeah.
The Yamaha stage basses.
Yep.
That's like the
Ibanez
sword
musician.
of. That's like the sword of Thor, man. It's like, I remember playing that in middle school, and I was like, "This is the best bass I've ever played."
Yeah.
But the school owned it, so I had to find something, and then I, of course, became addicted to Fenders for a long time. And this, to me, for me personally, outside of Fender, it's Pete. I'll be rocking with Pete until he tells me he doesn't like me anymore.
Well, that bass, while it does have weight to it, it's what I often find is that when there is a heavy instrument that is uncomfortable to play, it's because of the balance or lack of balance. The body is too heavy, or the neck is too heavy, and it's like that. This is so well balanced. Like, while you found a nice heavy piece of wood for the body, the neck compensates so well. So I remember when you put it over my shoulders, I was like, this doesn't feel heavy at all. But it's because it's so balanced. And that is often missed.
And then with no strap, like when you're trying to then you feel the weight of it when you're like, okay, let me put this here. Yeah. It's like, yeah. And I can,
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out the position I like my instruments, and it's in the same place as when I'm sitting down.
Yeah.
'Cause that's how I'm doing all my practice.
Man, that's important too. It's also what makes you comfortable.
Right.
Like I said, I've tried them all. I remember being in middle school, like elementary school and middle school, being like in a little garage band, like actual garage bands playing Green Day and AC/DC.
What was the name of your
Led Zeppelin.
high school band?
I don't even remember the name of that band in middle school, but when we got to high school, I had a band called, I was in a couple bands. There was a band called Alternate Roots. I was in a band called The Funk Brothers. The Funk Brothers, we actually...
Wait, the Funk Brothers or
Funk Brothers. Funk Brothers United. That was the actual name of the band, FBU.
That's got a great name to it. I mean, Funk Brothers is already a thing.
A thing, right.
FBU, that's...
Yeah. Funk Brothers United. And we actually got to open up for the Average White Band when the summer between
what was their big hit?
The summer between my junior and senior, they had many hits. What do you mean?
They had many hits?
They had many hits. Cut the Cake, A Love of Your Own,
Pick Up the Pieces?
Work to Do.
No, that's not them.
Pick Up the Pieces.
Yeah,
Work to Do.
That's the one I'm thinking.
They covered the Isley Brothers' Work to Do. You know, I mean, come on, man. They had more than, you know, I was a big fan of the Average White Brothers. Shout out to the Average White Brothers, you know. My dad actually hit me to a lot of music.
Yeah.
You know, he was like an overall encyclopedia. As long as it felt good to my dad, he was like, you need to sound like this bass player. Check out this bass player. Check out this bass player.
I had the same, but with my brother. He was the one that kind of like, okay, but let's check this out. You know,
my brothers were doing the same thing, but it was mainly with like hip hop. It was like, you know about Black Moon, you know about Cypress Hill, you know about Wu-Tang, you know, everything that was current. You know, my brothers were listening to that, and then gospel, and then reggae. You know.
Yeah.
But my dad was like, check out Neil Steubenhouse. I'm like, you don't know Neil Steubenhouse? Well, he plays bass on this record.
Yeah.
He sounds good. Check out Neil Steubenhouse. Check out Abraham Laborio.
Yeah.
Check out Anthony Jackson. Check out Donald Duck Dunn. I got obsessed with Donald Duck Dunn for a while. You know, I was obsessed with Chuck Rainey. You know, I was obsessed with James Jamerson. I was highly obsessed. Okay, here's a moment going full circle with what we're talking about. In playing team ball, the moment you feel like you're a part of something that's not you, every decision you make becomes so crucial.
Right.
And it's like you get these victories, these small victories while you're in it.
Yeah.
And I learned that studying George Porter.
Yeah.
George Porter Jr. I'm a heavy, huge fan of the Meters.
Yeah.
And
they're coming here for Rose on the River
Yeah.
Festival.
I'm a huge fan of music. I got to hang out with George and his wife. You know, she made me eat an alligator po' boy.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the first alligator po' boy I had was happening. The second one, I had it on Bourbon Street and I got sick. But
there was also some love behind the first one.
The first one, she was like, you never
That's a
had
special
alligator
moment.
po' boy? Okay, this is what we're having. But George, I mean, tone, and you can listen to what is it? Boop do dee do do dee do do dee dong dee do dee dick it dick ding dick it dick it get it dick it get it dick dick. I think it's called chicken. No, that's not chicken strut. Chicken strut is ding 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 ding. But anyway, there are so many times in the groove where he could have played something different.
Yeah.
So many times. But if you think about it, if you play those songs with your friends and you play something different, all of a sudden it's not the song anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like there was a time period where the functionality of the instrument, the sound, the tone, the idea, the concept within the whole big picture is the actual effect that it has on you.
Yeah.
I used to play George Porter bass lines in my sleep,
Yeah.
and they felt so good, and you want to play it again. All of the bass lines. I sang 10 of his bass lines to him when we first met him. He was like,
Cool, man.
I was a nerd, but I did that with a lot of the bass players I obsessed over.
I mean, how many times have we heard a bar band do Sissy Strut, and it's like, that's not the bass line.
Exactly.
Like, you don't want to like be a dick about it, but it's just like,
No.
it's missing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's too many notes most of the time.
Once you realize someone's locked in, then whatever they do is melody to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell when it's not locked.
Yeah.
You know, and I learned that my first two tours were with a guy named Johnny Marshall, and the drummer was Sean Meehan. Johnny Marshall was a JSP Records artist, blues, Chitlin Circuit tours.
Yeah.
And Johnny told me from the first rehearsal, he was like, I need you to play the bass line, and that's it. I'll show you the bass line every tune. I need you to play the bass line, and that's it. And that's the way I learned playing bass in church.
Yeah.
You know, don't disturb the spirit. Play the line. You
Right.
know, that's what you play. That's a part of the song, so that people can build on top of that.
Right.
You know, you're the foundation. You know, you listen to great Israel Crosby. That's why the Ahmad Jamal trio was so amazing. Israel Crosby, came up with a part,
Yeah.
an actual part. And Ahmad was able to layer on top of that because he knew what Israel was going to play. And then when Israel played something different, it was like, oh, wow, damn, I didn't know that was possible, man. What made you think of that? I've been thinking about it the whole time, but this is what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
And even in creative music, one of my favorite musicians on the bass in creative music, particularly, is Dave Holland.
Yeah.
And he utilizes his sound along with his rhythmic. I mean, he has his great sense of rhythm and time to create alternate, realms of sound. When it shifts, it's like, wait a minute, I thought we were here. Nope, but now we're here.
Yeah.
And it's something could be very subtle, yet the same line is happening, There's a lot of great musicians that do that.
Yeah.
Paul Jackson.
Paul
Chameleon is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Paul Jackson.
Again, bar bands always playing the.
Yeah.
His bass line is.
Paul Jackson can play little subtle things, and you'd be like,
Without that, how many
exactly.
times have you heard somebody play that song? It's missing that. Yeah.
Damn. You'd be like,
As soon as it's
and it
missing
becomes
that,
a part of it.
Yep.
It's like, wait a minute.
It's a very
It's a
important
whole
part
concept.
of it. I've only seen like one band play that where at least somebody was playing that part, like his bass part specifically. I can't even remember who it was, but I remember like this is it, and they had like the drummer had that Mike Clark sort of pocket and chatter that he was doing, but that it was, I think it was a guitar player who was playing like the.
Man, I got to give a shout out, like recent ear candy that just came into my ears. When I was at the New Orleans Jazz Festival, right before I played with Stefan, we got to hear Terrence Blanchard's E Collective. And he's got Oscar Seaton on drums, Charles Altura playing guitar, and DJ Ginyard on bass, and Taylor Eichste on piano.
Yeah.
But DJ, David Ginyard, man, him and Oscar, their pocket is like a thick, what do they call them, tomahawk steaks? I'm not even a steak person like that.
I am, and damn it, like now.
I like steaks, but like, if you ever seen one of them tomahawk steaks, that's like, no, I'm not gonna eat that. But whoa, it's like their pocket is that thick. And DJ, I had to tell him, man, I was like, man, your fingers, it's all in that finger, man. That his tone, where they were sitting it, and then the rhythmic displacement that was happening.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just me giving a shout out to something I just heard.
That's really
that's what it's about. And the other musicians in the band, Terrence, Charles, Taylor, they get to layer on top of that. And these two are just having fun.
Yeah.
Let's play some rhythm.
That aha moment, we talked about this, and we don't have to dive too much into that side of things. But being a young electric bass player and watching the virtuosos play and the slap and seeing them with the active basses with the crazy preamps and everything that they're using, we'd all listen to the classic records that had that specific sound and stuff, and we didn't really know what it was. And the jam band music scene has always, to me, been known for electronics and like sonic exploration and like, you know, like
Yeah.
like it's made a huge impact on a lot of the luthiers who are around today. And so that's that was always the path that I felt like I had to go down until 2001, Trey Anastasio Band, Tony Markellis up there with a 5-string P bass maybe, but it was just, there was something about that clicked, that what he was doing you were just describing, right? And the rhythmic displacement and the simplicity in the part and like this just big round awesome sound that came from something so simple.
Every note Tony played had life in it. You know?
When I was 15.
You can hear every bandstand that he was on, and every note he played consistently. Like
that was the moment.
You know, the groove is always thick.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what it should be. And, and it serves a role. You know, in general, you know, nowadays there's been a lot of community taken out of the bass. You know, we were talking about this. Everyone wants to play solo and get hooked on what the bass sounds like solo. You know, and you can do so many things solo, but you can't do the things you do solo when you're with a bunch of people.
Right.
You know, because maybe, you know, what you want to do might not be what someone else wants to do.
Right.
You know, and music is community.
That has always been a challenge for me playing with people, because I like there's that instinct to show off a little bit, to slip something in. But you're right. It's that what you want to do may not be what the rest of the group wants to do, and if it's just like fighting it, you know, and like sometimes you find a window to kind of sneak something in.
That's the beauty of having your own band.
That's true.
That's why I love playing with my band.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about your band.
My band, I can do what I want to do, and I'm always apologizing to cast my band and be like, sorry, man, for being Wild Bill. And they're like, oh, man, we love it. You know? And then when you play in their bands, they're like, it's a certain thing that, you know, that's respect.
Yeah.
That's respect for the music, respect for
it's
the environment and,
two-way
and the
street.
people that you're working with. Exactly. And then if you can, there's always a point you reach of well, there should be a balance, right? But in order to get, you have to give.
Right.
Right. So
and you only get what you give.
Exactly. If you do your job, then you should be able to find a way to be yourself within that job, which is why I've thoroughly enjoyed this time, and I hope I get to keep doing this, working with Trey. You know, I've always played electric bass, and like I said, we've been talking about since I was a kid, and this has given me a new found boost and love to keep playing it. You know. And to play it more. I can be myself with him.
Yeah.
That's all that matters to me. So it's whatever we do, that's what we do. You know, as long as I can be myself. And I've been in so many situations where I was not allowed to be myself.
Right.
So many situations.
Right.
You have to do that part so you know what it is when you can be yourself.
Right.
And you also have to do that to pay the bills and keep the. As soon as
in finding yourself,
college
you have
is
to
over,
fit into
or
something
as soon
else.
as high school is over, now it's like, okay,
Yeah.
Uncle Sam is like, okay, you want to play the bass? That costs money. The strings cost money. You know.
Gas costs
Oh
money.
yeah, you also got to sleep so that you can play the. You know, you need
Money
a
ain't
place to
cheap.
stay. Yeah, you got to get to the gig. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so you got to do that. You know, but I'm blessed to be in a space now where everything that I've been doing is what I want to do, and I'm able to be myself.
Yeah.
And express myself.
Do you have any tour dates coming up with your solo project, your band?
With my group, we're playing Jazz at Lincoln Center has a series, a summer series, June 30th.
Is that where they do the Mark Twain Prize? The Lincoln Center? Where's this at?
No, Lincoln Center in New York City.
I think that's...
where you know, you have the Met New York Phil. There's also Jazz at Lincoln Center, but Lincoln Center has a Summer in the City series, and they have a venue called Jazz at Jaffa Drive. June 30th, the quartet will be performing there, and we're working on some more dates in the early fall because we're going back in the studio to do the next record.
Nice.
And we had a great run at the Village Vanguard. We premiered all new music.
That's exciting. How many tracks?
Well, me personally, I have at least 14 that are ready to go.
Nice. When was the Vanguard set?
Vanguard was March 19th through 24.
Is Howard Johnson's tuba still on the wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my one and only time going was to see Bradley Meldau
Oh,
trio.
wow.
Like my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend. You know,
I think that's the tuba he played with Taj Mahal, right?
Yep, that's the one. So we, her friend who we were staying with, you know, like, let's go to the Village Vanguard, and I'm like, you know, I always know that I had to like appreciate jazz, but I didn't know really fuck all about it. But I was trying to be the cool like musician of the group. Like, yeah, let's go. And then like they sit us down and they sit me right underneath his tuba, and I was like, oh, I'm in the right spot. And that trio, Larry Grenadier, was so amazing. I think they even did like a Radiohead song at some point. And that was a really special experience.
Classic trio in this music.
But so from what I understand, like a lot of the venues in New York, especially post-COVID, have really been packing them in. When we were at the Blue Note, it was just like a table, maybe like from here to where you're sitting, six people at a table. Is Vanguard still like that?
The Blue Note has always been like that.
It has. Okay.
I remember seeing Jackie McLean, Freddie Hubbard.
Oh yeah.
You know, 19 eating chicken wings. You know, I wanted to get a good seat, so I'm right near the drums, but I'm like sandwiched in, and I was a bigger dude then. So I'm like,
I don't know how people eat. I mean,
People have a
I have a
whole
hard
meal.
time eating in public in general. I don't like eating around.
No, I feel you.
people.
I like to be like this.
Yeah, let's,
I get claustrophobic. You know?
Right.
He gets a fucking cheeseburger and stuff when we're there, and I'm just like,
Oh yeah, no.
And I'm looking
fuck
like
you.
the whole set. Like I'm sitting here, I'm sitting like this, and the stage is over here, and I can't see anything, and he's just like chowing on this cheeseburger, and the whole time I'm just like, oh, it's good. But I have this social thing where I can't eat in front of everybody.
listen,
We're
I feel you,
sharing
I
a
feel you.
hotel room. Like,
I don't care about eating in
you.
front of you. I just mean like in public. I hate going to restaurants.
No, man, I feel you. You know?
know?
certain. We're not going to talk about that because you know, a lot of places that this is happening, I work at. You know, and some know how to do it better than the others. Like to have food and.
I thought the Blue Note did an amazing job with that.
I also like the clubs that don't have, you know, food. They just have drinks and it turns it into it's almost a thing. When you know, a place like the Vanguard is forcing people to dig on the music. They might have a drink, you know, but the music starts and then they're here. They're not worrying about this, and there's a balance. I don't mind it. You know, I used to get annoyed at the smell of like certain seafoods that came out while you were playing. It'd be like, oh man, like
Truffle oil.
It's like
We just were dealing with that at City
who
Winery.
ordered it? You know, like you're watching, like now that's taking your attention away. I had to learn how to like get over all of that. You know,
When we were at City Winery to see Nate Smith and Friends, and he was with his wife, and I was getting kind of hungry, and this is the one time I let my guard down a little bit.
He got a plate of fries.
I got a plate of truffle fries, and they sit them down because I could smell it from the table, and I was like, that smells really good.
Yeah.
And as soon as it sits down, I like take a bite, and I get out of the corner of my eye, I see his wife Kendall, and she's just got this, not looking at me, but she's just kind of like back up like this, and I was like, "Fuck! Oh no!"
She hates truffle.
People
So
start
she beeline to the bathroom, and like all
Judgmental.
of my social anxiety.
Judgmental. It's like,
I was just like, oh,
you
no.
like truffle, don't you?
Yeah,
now
no,
she's judging you.
Oh yeah, I don't care about that. But
I'm
it was making
man,
her
it's just truffle.
like I'm a big guy, and like eating like there's always this like. I don't know, stereotype about like fat guys eating and just being a slob, and it's just disgusting to. So it's the shame and the guilt or whatever. I understand that, but then I get the truffle fries. And I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna enjoy these. I'm feeling good. I've been doing my yoga lately. And then she fucking walks to the bathroom, and I'm like, I'm a disgusting pig. who made these truffles, but they're so good. I didn't give a shit. It was good.
Man,
It was worth it.
No, I mean, the smell bothers her, but she's fine. You know?
No,
She's
Kendall's
also
cool
a
as shit.
lifelong vegetarian. She was raised
beautiful.
vegetarian, but I'm a big meat eater. She doesn't, I order steak every time I go out or a burger or whatever.
Yeah.
So we get along just fine.
Man, you get some people who are like technicians. You know, I have some
I'm a
friends.
professional, bro.
I'm not gonna name names, but some people, when their food comes in, they're like, "This goes here.
Right.
This go." And no, please make sure when you bring the burger, the bun is over here, and don't put the onions and tomato on the.
Yeah.
I won't eat it. You know,
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Can't touch.
this has to be separate. And then all of a sudden, like, they get their corner space, and then they're like, "Yo, G, like, can you?" Meanwhile, you're just like, "Man,
Can I get a fry?
let me move over here,
Yeah.
man. You want your privacy? What's going on?"
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, like the balls on that person to me. It's just But like, but with back to the Blue Note, as it is very packed in there, the one thing that I immediately noticed about that place, other than just the professionalism and everything, the sound was immaculate.
Yeah. Really good.
Everywhere. It just every note, every nuance, every tone was immaculate. It was so
Well, when
great.
you're seeing a trio, though, like drums, bass, keys, like I think that's the optimal kind of setup for like non-clashing, tones. Like you add a guitar player, now he's kind of in the piano zone.
But
So-
having those MCs come out who were very
Yeah.
rhythmic, especially with the Tim LaFave.
Man, they have a proper sound check.
It's so good.
Proper sound check. That club knows their system.
Yeah.
They know the room. They know their audience.
Yeah.
And it's like that. The Blue Note has its sound. Just like Dizzy's have their sound. Just like the Vanguard has their sound. Just like SOBs
Yeah.
has their sound. That's all on the venue. If depending on what kind of music is being offered, some clubs specialize in certain things. The Blue Note specializes in a certain thing.
Yeah.
Vanguard specializes in a certain thing. Smalls specializes in a certain thing. Cafe Wah. Cafe Wah is a great sound system. They specialize in a certain thing. It's
Yeah.
like you're going to see, Cafe Wah is where a lot of the heavy R&B and pop acts go to scout their talent.
Okay.
So that's a clean sound.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Every venue in New York City, if they're established enough to have, to still be here and keep going, they know their room. They know their
Yeah.
sound. So I mean, and they have musicians in there that can work with it.
Right.
Some people are like, "No, you need to change all of this
Yeah.
so I can play there." That
So-
ain't gonna happen in New York City. You're like, okay, you just won't play here.
Well, we're about out of time.
Yeah.
But before we do, we should jump into a rapid fire. Are you up for that?
I'm up for it.
Sorry for the quick change, but
It's
I
cool,
know
it's
you
cool.
guys are
But
coming.
before, is Trey touring right now? You got dates with him?
Yeah, we have it was supposed to be our first date was supposed to be in Redondo Beach, but right before we were performing, ZZ Top was performing before us, and the show got canceled in the middle of their set because of wind, so we didn't get to play. So
All right.
Russ, Ray, and
Right in the middle. We're just wrapping up the interview.
Thursday's
real quick,
gonna be
guys.
our
Thank you so much for coming down.
Thursday's gonna be our first show of this tour.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Okay.
It's my
Cool.
15-year anniversary with my wife.
Right on.
All right. Well, then, where would people be able to find those dates? On like your website, on Trey's website?
Yeah, you can find them on Trey's site.
Google.com.
Yeah.
Maybe Bing.com too.
How do you
too.
spell that?
You know how to spell it. Don't do that. Don't do that to me.
All right. So rapid fire questions. If you've paid attention to our Instagram, you kind of know what this is about. Just kind of first thing comes to mind. There are no wrong answers. I will do mostly bass related questions. Mark might do.
Who the fuck is Mike?
Mike,
Wait, I don't even know the name.
Mark might do some food related questions.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. Are you ready?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so. I think so.
Active or passive basses?
Active.
Maple or rosewood or favorite fingerboard material?
Maple.
Speaker size or do you have a favorite speaker size?
Yeah, I actually like this combination of 410 and a 15.
Okay.
But 810 is second.
All right. Do you prefer like a head and a cab or a combo?
Actually, if it's Mark bass, their combos are great.
Yeah.
Their combos are
That
great.
Jeff
If
Berlin
it's a
signature.
combo, if it's a combo, it's Mark bass. But I actually, my personal setup, whether it's electric or upright, is 212 and a head.
Okay. This is usually the hardest question. Do you have a favorite bass player, a couple of your favorite bass players?
George Porter Jr., Chuck Rainey, Donald Duck Dunn, James Jamerson, Jack Bruce.
Ooh, interesting.
All right.
As far as I'm just talking electric.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, upright. Go.
Oh, Ron Carter, Sam Jones, Ray Brown, George DeVivier, Dave Holland, Leroy Vinegar, Charles Mingus.
All right. I was wondering if you're going to put that one in there. Do you have a piece of gear you regret getting rid of?
Ooh, yes.
It was
My valve trombone.
Oh, interesting.
hard case or gig bag?
Gig bag.
Do you have a preferred gig bag?
Reunion Blues.
Okay. Tube or solid state?
Tube.
What's your current bass rig?
Mark Bass. Well, with Trey, I used Mark Bass Ninja 1000 with 8 10s.
Okay.
So 2 410s.
Thump City.
Thump City.
Do you have another rig? Or is that...
Yeah, my home rig is Mark Bass Tube Vintage 800 with the 212.
Nice.
Okay. Do you have a favorite pedal?
Yeah, I love the envelope filter.
Like the MXR or?
Yeah.
Okay.
The MXR envelope filter. I also really like the Eddie Van Halen MXR phaser.
We've never heard that one on here.
First one.
The phaser's off the chain.
Hell yeah, dude.
The phaser. I put my upright through a phaser, and it sounds
awesome.
great.
Just
Do you have a favorite string brand type gauge?
Yeah, Ernie Ball Super Slinky Cobalt.
nice.
All right. Do you have a favorite hardware finish? Black, gold, chrome, nickel?
I love gold, and it's funny you asked that. I love gold.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, I was in a gospel group with my dad and my brothers, and all the bass players, it was a thing. If you had to have a bass with the gold hardware.
Yeah.
And I always wanted one. And my dad was like, yeah, them cats, they got the gold hardware, but they can't play like you. You get one when you want one. Right now, that's the bass you have.
Right.
Play it, It's not about what it looks like, son.
Right.
It's about what it sounds like.
Right.
Well, now it's about what it looks like.
Yeah. At some point, I'm going to get some gold hardware. And when I do,
I
sparkle.
I love.
Be ready for the sparkle.
Oh,
Th-
man.
Make
you know
sure to
that's what I
shine
got.
the light right on the headstop.
But those hip shot lollipops that are on your shoulder bass are gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts or feelings about relic instruments?
Yeah. I have a 75. You mean like relic? Like
Like brand new but beat up?
Oh. You know what? As long as it sounds good, I don't care what it looks like.
All right. This has kind of become, I think, my favorite question to ask. A band you wish you could play with or tour with or do an album with, is there someone you've never played with that you wish you could have the opportunity to play with them in some type of way?
There's a couple, but I'll say two. I wish I could have played in the original Inner Circle with Horsemouth on drums. And I wish I could have been a part of the Meters.
Yeah.
All right.
That's special.
That's all the bass-related questions I have. Mark is going to take it here with a couple of randos off the top of his head.
What tuba do you have currently at home?
I don't own a tuba.
You don't own a
And
tuba?
it's funny, Howard Johnson tried to sell me a tuba. I played it in a big band. Howard Johnson plays saxophone as well, you know, flutes, amazing. Rest in peace, Howard. But I was a fan of Howard from his appearance on Sesame Street with James Taylor.
Yeah.
And I learned that solo, and I eventually played it for him in one of the big band rehearsals. And from then on, he tried to sell me a tuba every time he saw me. And I just couldn't afford it. I was trying to buy basses.
Yeah. B flat or C?
Both.
Both. That's right. Roger Boba was playing B flat. Everybody in the...
I also played euphonium.
Yeah, I
also
wish I could have
played
gone back and played euphonium.
Baritone horn.
Yeah.
I played sousaphone, you know.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever do marching band?
Yep.
Like, do you ever get into like DCI as well, like the Drum Corps International?
No.
That's
so
a
I
whole-
played in
that's-
marching band in middle school.
Yeah.
And then the first half of my freshman year in high school, and then I got brought up to varsity football, and I didn't have to play in the marching band anymore.
Okay,
Yeah.
so were you more like, are you more into like the roll technique or the high step technique?
Oh man, my footwork was all off.
Yeah, yeah, the shin splints, dude, right?
Footwork wasn't my
Wasn't
my thing. You know, I wasn't coordinated. There's a band called Red Beret, Sonny James band.
Okay.
The tuba player is all over the stage the whole time.
Hell yeah.
And he's playing some hip stuff and moving. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
No, it's a little bit more than that.
Exactly.
What's your favorite saxophone?
Alto.
Like alto. All right, we have to disagree on that one, but that's okay. It's not my place to do that. Favorite pizza?
Spinach and jalapeno.
What are you putting on your hot dogs?
Oh, mustard.
Mustard. Nice. Do you ever put anything else on there, or just straight up mustard?
Mustard always.
What's
Mustard
your favorite
is the
mustard brand?
standard.
What's your favorite mustard?
Grey Poupon.
What's your favorite custard? Is there a good frozen custard place that you go to?
I'm not really hip to frozen custards, or unless it's in like some kind of other pie or something.
Or cake?
You know, cake.
I'm not a cake guy. I'm a pie guy. But custard and cake,
I like.
that's what's up.
Okay, if you ask me what my favorite pie is
What's
right
your
now,
favorite pie?
blueberry.
Blueberry is
Right now.
insane.
Right
Blueberry
now, it's
crumble
blueberry.
with the right ice cream on top and the hot and the cold. Just
yeah.
Man, Dezron.
Blueberries off the chains.
thank you so much.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate this time. This has been
you.
really, really special.
Thank
for
you,
us.
brother. Appreciate
And then, where can people find you? Are you heavy on Instagram, Facebook? None of that.
Can we take a pause here? Camera's dead.
Oh, that's okay.
They like very shortly
But for
ago.
the plug,
so
we
they
wanna
just
have 'em on,
yeah,
so-
do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
All right, now.
Did we get the pie?
I don't think so.
We got the audio for the
We
pie.
got the audio.
That's all that
Audio.
matters. We'll
All
just.
right, it's good now.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
So if somebody wants to find out what you're doing and wants to check you out, what's like best place?
My website is DezronDouglasMusic.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram, Dez Thought, and on Twitter, where Twitter is like I don't really rarely post stuff on there. That's my ratchet side.
It's everybody's ratchet side.
But that's Douglas Dezron.
Yeah.
You can find me.
You're pretty easy to
I'm
find.
not hiding. I'm also on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not hiding.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming out and doing this and meeting with us. We really appreciate it. And
And thank you again to Chicago Music
Yeah,
Exchange for
CME.
hosting us once again.
Yes.
It's been super
Thank
special.
you too for doing this. Doing good work and being real about the bass.
try to build the community a little bit.
Thank you.
Community is everything.
Yeah.
That's right.
Community is everything.